So welcome once again to the Trauma and Addiction Recovery Center's YouTube channel. If you find these videos useful, be sure to like this one and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can watch future videos that will have helpful information about recovering from sex addiction, porn addiction, as well as partner betrayal trauma. This is the 7th video in an 8-video series on the basic 5 of healthy boundaries. In the previous 6 videos, we've defined boundaries, and we have also reviewed the basic principles of healthy boundaries. And those are: boundaries are for you, avoid threats and ultimatums, sustain your boundaries with follow-through, influence others by making requests, and change yourself through your boundaries. In this video, and in the 8th and final video, we're going to talk about the 5 steps to discovering and communicating your boundaries. So for this video and our last video, we are offering worksheets that will help us as we're learning the 5 steps of discovering and communicating our boundaries. So if you'd like to get those worksheets, feel free to go to our website at www.tarkrecovery.com/resources. You can also click on the link below to our website to get those worksheets. These final 2 videos are going to follow the worksheets pretty closely, so they'll be helpful. So let's just talk about the 5 steps of the basic 5. So the 5 steps to discovering and communicating our boundaries. The first step is determine what your feelings are about whatever situation you're considering having boundaries with. Step 2 is determine what you want and or what you need. Step 3 is determine any requests you may have of others. Step 4 is determine your boundaries. And step 5 is communicate your boundaries to others. In this particular video, we're going to focus on steps 1, 2, and 3. And then in our final video, we will move on to steps 4 and 5. So let's get started with step 1, which is determine your feelings about the situation. So this step 1 seems pretty simple at first. Just figure out how you feel, whatever the situation, whatever's going on, figure out how you're feeling about it. And I guess it is one of those things that's like simple, but not easy sometimes. Part of that is because for many partners who've experienced betrayal in their relationship, they've had a long experience, a long history of denying their feelings, ignoring their feelings, pushing their feelings aside. And partners do this for a lot of reasons. So often partners may say to themselves, well, it's not that big of a deal, so I'm just going to ignore it. Or they may say to themselves, if I get upset about this, it's just going to start a huge fight, or I don't want to get into a conflict, or there's too many other things to worry about right now. So partners kind of have this pattern of pushing aside how they feel. And over time, it's just easy to get disconnected from our feelings, so much so that we may not even know how we feel. The same thing is true for many partners. They may have learned early on in their history that feelings don't matter. Maybe their feelings got discounted as a child, or they didn't have models for how to express emotions in a healthy way. So for many reasons, partners may have difficulty knowing how they feel about a situation. So if that's true for you, I highly recommend get help, get support. There's a lot of resources out there that you can look into that can help you start to identify how you're feeling, including potentially S-Anon or some other 12-step or self-help group, or therapy with someone who understands the dynamics of betrayal trauma and sexual addiction recovery. So using the worksheets, you'll notice that the instructions are to write what happened. So the goal here is to write the facts of the situation, what actually happened. One way I like to think about it is, what did you see or hear? Or really, you could put any of the 5 senses in there. But what are the facts as you know them? So I heard you say these words, or I saw you take this action. So this isn't where your opinions come in or where your judgments come in. It's purely the facts as you understand them in that moment. So we use the example of Jackie. Jackie recently discovered that her husband is acting out sexually again. And when she did this worksheet, here's what she wrote. I walked into the bedroom and saw that Ben was on the computer. When he noticed me, he quickly shut the laptop and appeared guilty. When I asked if he was looking at porn, he said yes. So those are just the facts of the situation as Jackie understood them in the moment. Next, you're going to list what you felt, how you felt about that situation. And it's important here to use feeling words. You'll notice on the worksheet that there is a whole page of different feeling words as an example. Feel free to use that and check all of the feeling words that apply to you about this situation. If you don't see your feelings on that list, then go ahead and add your own. Jackie said that she was feeling angry, hurt, afraid, and embarrassed. So that's step 1 in the 5 steps. Now we're going to move on to step 2, which is determining your wants and needs. So if you'll remember from our previous videos, boundaries are what I will or won't do to take care of myself and my responsibility. So that is very tied to my wants and needs. In order to take care of myself, I need to know what it is I want or need. And then my boundaries are part of what helped me get my wants and needs met. One of the biggest reasons we even have feelings is to motivate us to get our wants and needs met. And that goes for physical feelings as well as emotional feelings. So when we are feeling physically hungry, we're motivated to get our nutritional needs met by going and getting some food. And the same thing with emotional feelings. When we have certain feelings, that is information to us that we're having unmet needs or unmet wants. So knowing what we want or need can also be difficult, especially for people who've been disconnected from their feelings. And also that there's a lot of really twisted messages about our wants and needs in our society. One of the biggest struggles I've been aware of with many betrayed partners who come in for treatment is that they don't know what they need or want. And again, they've had a long history of dismissing their needs or wants and putting other people's needs and wants before theirs. And so they just stopped knowing what it is that they've needed or wanted. And to make matters worse, for many of these betrayed partners, they learned early on that having needs and wants was wrong or even selfish or sinful in some way. So the good news is that we can get reconnected to our feelings as well as our wants and needs. And we're going to do that now by thinking about what our feelings are telling us about what we want or need. So a lot of times, especially if a partner has just discovered that their loved one has been acting out or deceiving them, the feelings can be overwhelming. It's entirely possible that you may have checked every feeling off of that list, that you just may be flooded with all different kinds of feelings. And so I really like to use a tip from a woman named Vicki Tidwell Palmer. She's written tons of stuff and done podcasts and all kinds of helpful material out there about boundaries. So I'll put a link to her website below because you might find that helpful. But one of the things that she recommends is just pick the top 1 or 2 feelings that you're having most strongly. The strongest feelings that you're aware of, the top 1 or 2. And that helps just kind of narrow it down so this process doesn't become completely overwhelming. So let's go back to our example with Jackie, who just discovered that her husband is sexually acting out again by watching porn. Remember that Jackie was feeling angry, hurt, afraid, and embarrassed. When she considered those feelings, she realized the 2 that she was having most strongly were anger and afraid. So after identifying your strongest feeling, see if you can determine what that feeling is telling you about what it is you need or want. In the worksheet, you'll notice there's a whole page of feelings and associated needs and wants that are pretty common that go with those feelings. And some of it may be pretty easy to recognize. Like, for example, if I'm feeling scared or afraid, most likely I need or want safety or certainty, or I may want some element of control. Which really is just a way of trying to guarantee myself certainty. I may want reassurance. So just think about what the feelings are, and then consider, what is it that I need or want? One of the traps that people can easily fall into is when they're thinking about what they need or want, they end up saying what they want someone else to do. So for example, someone might say, I want Nick to stop staring at other women. But that's not really her needs or wants. In fact, that's probably more like a request than her needs or wants. What she might say instead is, I want to feel attractive to Nick. That's her want. Or I want to be respected. And when Nick stares at other women, I feel disrespected. So these are your needs and wants, not behaviors that you want someone else to do. So the worksheet offers space to go ahead and practice identifying your feelings and your needs and wants connected to those feelings. So now we're going to move on to step 3 of the 5 steps of discovering and communicating your boundaries, which is determine if you have any requests. So requests are if the other person can do or stop doing something that would help us get our needs met, then we can make requests. And if you'll remember the I of the basic 5, influence others by making requests. And we talked about that people often love us, they care about us, and often if we can make requests in a respectful, direct, calm, clear way, that people often want to give us what we're asking for, or they're willing to negotiate so that everyone can get their wants and needs met. So when you're considering your boundaries, consider, are there any requests? Is there anything I could ask of this other person that would help me get what I want or need? In the example we just talked about with Nick staring at other women, she may ask him, Nick, will you please stop staring at other women when we're out together? And that would be a request. So when you're making requests, it's important to request behavior change, because that's something concrete. So it's important to make requests that involve behavior, not make requests that involve character assassination or even character traits that are harder to get a handle on. So for example, an inappropriate request would be something like, Nick, I'd like for you to stop being selfish. Well, what you consider selfish, Nick may not consider selfish. He may not know what you're talking about. That would be a really difficult request for him to try to honor for you. So make it a behavior. It's important to remember that not every boundary will have a request associated with it. First of all, I may have already made the request. I may have already calmly and clearly asked for what I wanted or needed, and the person either wasn't willing or they said they were willing, but they didn't actually follow through. In those situations, it's probably not super helpful to keep making requests that are getting ignored or denied. Also, there just may not be any requests that you have, and that's okay too. However, if there is something that you want or need and you haven't calmly and clearly asked your loved one for that, go ahead and give it a try and see if you might be able to enlist your loved one in helping you get your wants and needs met. We talked about in the video that covered influence others by making requests that the other person can respond to your request a lot of different ways, including yes, including no, including maybe, I'll think about it. And so it's important to remember that and be prepared for any of those answers. And along those lines, your requests may be negotiable or they may not be negotiable, meaning the answer to your request can be yes or no or maybe. However, what you will do in response to that answer may or may not be negotiable. If the person says no to your request, what you will do next, which is your boundary, may not be negotiable. That a no is not an answer that you could hear and not take action to take care of yourself. But there may be some other requests that are negotiable, and that's also important to know for yourself. So today we've covered the first 3 steps of the 5 steps to discovering and communicating your boundaries. So determine your feelings, determine your wants and your needs, and determine if you have any requests. And once you have those 3 steps down, then you're in a position to be able to then determine what your boundaries are. And we're going to cover that in the next video, and we will also talk about how to communicate your boundaries with others. Thank you for joining us today. Look forward to seeing you next time. If you need help creating your own boundaries, or for more information about the Trauma and Addiction Recovery Center, including our treatment programs for men struggling with problematic sexual behavior, or for partners who have experienced betrayal trauma, please visit our website at www.tarkrecovery.com or email us at info@tarkrecovery.com. You can click above to watch the next video in this series on healthy boundaries. We hope you'll also like this video and subscribe to the Trauma and Addiction Recovery Center's channel to continue to receive helpful information about recovering from sexual addiction and betrayal trauma. Thanks for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you next time.